In the world of rap and hip hop, success can come fast, but so can downfall. Tay-K, the young rapper whose name became notorious due to his legal troubles, is a stark reminder of how quickly fame can turn into infamy. Of course, if you're a spoiled little brat, talented, having the time of your life making your music, and then you show up on a news article, people start looking you up and come across your music. They start sharing it to one another, and your name grows. Today, we dive into the story of Tay-K, a well known rapper, his crimes, his rise to fame, and the legal battles that continue to define his life. Tay-K, born Taymor McIntyre on June 16, 2000, in Long Beach, California, grew up in a world that blended rap music and violence. He quickly gained traction in the music world, but his involvement with the criminal underworld would eventually overshadow his career. Before fame, Tay-K was involved with a group called the Daytona Boyz, a collective aspiring rap group. However, his rise to infamy would come not through music, but through a series of violent crimes that left a trail of death and destruction. On New Year's Day in 2016, after a Denton, Texas performance, Tay-K was almost arrested with Daytona Boyz member Santana Sage. After a dispute, Sage had shot 20-year-old Sarah Mutt's challenger, then fled. Eventually, there was no probable cause to arrest nor charge Tay-K. On the other hand, U.S. Marshals arrested Sage at the Yuma Air Station in Arizona, where he was working as a Marine. He had been on his way to start his shift. This was just a few days after the shooting. The Marshals took him to the base's PMO building and informed him that he was being tied to a shooting miles away in another state. He was shortly after booked into the MCAS Yuma Detention Facility, also within this base. Before the base's military court judge, Patrick McLean, Sage waived extradition and was shortly after driven back to Texas by the Marshals. His first stop was the Denton Police Station and then the Denton County Jail, where he was booked on a felony of first-degree murder. This victim, Sarah, died of her injuries at the Denton Regional Hospital. Sage appeared at the Denton County Sheriff's headquarters before Magistrate Alexis Edwards, who remanded him into custody until further notice. So, no bond for him. Judge Bruce McFarland requested that the prosecutor, Denton County DA Bruce Isaacs, present the case to a grand jury to confirm the murder charge. That is exactly what Isaacs did, and a Denton County District Court grand jury confirmed the first-degree murder felony for a state indictment. Santana Sage maintained his innocence and refused to take a plea deal, choosing to go to trial instead. Before Judge McFarlane, Sage pleaded not guilty and his bond was set to $1 million cash only, which ensured that he would remain in jail to await trial. Since the beginning of the case, Sage, through his military benefits, got a private attorney, Stephen Warr of Denton, to represent him. In July 2017, Sage was put on trial and found guilty. The trial went into its sentencing phase. This jury of 12 members and 4 alternates voted to toss the original indictment. Therefore, this meant Sage would no longer get a life sentence. Then in August of that year, Judge McFarland sentenced him to 40 years in prison. Throughout the trial, this judge refused to let him go without having a verdict by a jury, and also refused to start the trial all over again. This judge denied a request to resentence him nor release him as he appealed to the higher courts. Governor Greg Abbott was aware of this case, but would not pardon nor commute him. Sage was first taken to the North Tower Detention Facility after being sentenced. This was for evaluation. He was later admitted into the Holiday Unit State Prison in Huntsville, Texas. However, he was released in 2022 after his conviction was overturned and dismissed. He had appealed his case to the higher court, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. The same attorneys, being the DA and his private lawyer, would continue fighting throughout this next appellate phase. On May 2nd, 2019, this appeals court denied him resentencing. However, on August 22nd of that year, they granted him a new trial. They, however, reviewed this further and cleared him. Therefore, at this point, he was free. The release was ordered on February 25th, 2022. Yes, this would not be the last time that the Daytona Boyz would be in the center of a legal saga, as Tay-K, another member, would be linked to a violent crime. In 2016, Tay-K's legal troubles deepened as he became involved in a violent home invasion in Mansfield, Texas. On the night of July 26 that year, Tay-K and 6 accomplices broke into the home of somebody named Ethan Walker. Walker and his roommate were targeted during this home invasion. The group demanded money, drugs, and valuables. But when things went wrong, Tay-K and his crew resorted to violence. Ethan Walker was shot and killed during this home invasion, while another individual, the roommate Zachary Belaudia, was left critically injured. Tay-K and his accomplices tried to flee the scene, but their actions would soon catch up with them. In the aftermath of this home invasion, Tay-K was placed under investigation for his role in the shooting. This was just the beginning of his increasingly violent path. Neighbors called the cops when they heard gunshots. The Mansfield Police Department responded and made 7 arrests. They were the 16-year-old Tay-K, 17-year-old Aaron Robinson, 19-year-old Jalen Bell, 19-year-old Megan Holt, 20-year-old Ariana Barat, 20-year-old Sean Robinson, and 22-year-old Lafarian Merritt. All 7 were taken to the Mansfield police station and detained there. The 17-year-old injured roommate, Zachary Belodi, survived as he underwent surgery at the Methodist Mansfield Medical Center, being released weeks later. 21-year-old Ethan Walker was taken to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office. The staff there confirmed that he had been murdered by gunshots. He had died instantly. Visitation at Mass for Ethan was held at the Creekwood Church in Mansfield on August 1st, 2016. This was all conducted by the Mansfield Funeral Home. He was cremated. Tay-K and Aaron were booked into the Lynn Ross Juvenile Detention Center. The other 5 appeared before Magistrate Alexis Edwards at the headquarters of the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. All 5 were remanded into the Tarrant County Jail until further notice. Municipal Judge Wayne Salvin presided over the first appearance of Tay-K and Aaron Robinson. He remanded them into custody for a pretrial detention. They appeared virtually from the detention center. 16-year-old Tay-K was formally charged with 1 count of capital murder and 3 counts of aggravated robbery. 17-year-old Aaron Robinson with 1 count of capital murder and 2 counts of aggravated robbery. The remaining 5 with 1 count of capital murder and 1 of aggravated robbery. State Attorney William Vasseur initially prosecuted all defendants. Altogether, they hired a group of attorneys to represent them. Tay-K by Trent Lofton, Aaron Robinson by Wes Ball, Jalen Bell by Greg Westfall, Megan Holt by Gary Smart, Ariana Barat by Rose Salinas, Sean Robinson by Wes Bell, and Lafaria Merritt by Elizabeth Courtwright. Zachary Belodi, the surviving victim of this Mansfield shooting, was left with crucial injuries, but he would go on to play a key role in identifying the attackers. His testimony would become crucial in the investigation that followed. Tay-K was eventually indicted for capital murder and attempted murder due to the shooting that took place during the home invasion. This was after the resigned judge had ordered a grand jury at the Tarrant County District Court to review the charges and confirm them. That is exactly what happened. Zachary's bravery in coming forward would later impact Tay-K's legal proceedings. Following the murder of Ethan Walker and the assault on Zachary Belodi, Tay-K's life took a dramatic turn. Judge Salvant suspended the arraignment of Tay-K and Aaron Robinson in order to host a set of certification hearing to discuss how this case would move forward before District Judge Bruce McFarland, who arraigned the 5 others. Those 5 pleaded not guilty to all charges. In January 2017, Judge Salvant released Tay-K and Aaron Robinson on house arrest for the time being before the certification hearings officially started, as they had been delayed. On March 27, 2017, both broke off their ankle monitors and ran away. Excuse my language throughout the rest of the episode, but Tay-K posted on Twitter, what is now known as X. Fuck this house arrest shit, fuck 12. They GN have to catch me on the hood. Both first fled to San Antonio, Texas, and then went to Elizabethtown, New Jersey. There, Tay-K recorded a song called The Race, which is about fleeing the police. The song contains the lyrics, fuck a beat, I was trying to beat a case, but I ain't beat that case, bitch, I did the race. Aaron Robinson was recaptured by the U.S. Marshals in May 2017. She was processed at the headquarters of the Union County Sheriff's Office, and then booked into the Union County Juvenile Detention Center. She appeared before Union County Family Court Judge Robert Kirsch, who ordered that she be transported back to Texas. Therefore, the marshals transported her back. Their first stop was the headquarters of the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office, and she once again was booked into the Lynn Ross. Then the following month, the marshals recaptured Tay-K. He told them that he swallowed a bottle of pills. This was as he was hospitalized at the Trinitas Regional Medical Center. However, doctors found that he had not swallowed anything, and that this had just been an excuse to avoid being put into custody. Tay-K then claimed he was hearing voices and was transferred over to this hospital's psychiatric unit. 2 days later, he was cleared and officially taken into custody. At first, the marshals took him to the headquarters of the Union County Sheriff's Office, and shortly after booked him into the Union County Juvenile Detention Center. He appeared before Union County Family Court Judge Robert Kirsch, who ordered that he too be transported back to Texas. The U.S. Marshals drove him as well back. Just like Aaron, the first stop the Tarrant County Sheriff's headquarters, and then the Lynn Ross. Judge Salmon deemed their actions inappropriate and then revoked the house arrest for both. As Tay-K evaded the law, he became something on the internet, a sensation. In June 2017, Tay-K released the track The Race while still on the run. This was what made him more famous. From being a local Daytona Boyz member opening for others, he became a highly streamed artist. And this was before TikTok. It was Musically back then and not as viral. Therefore, imagine him if this would have happened to this day. The violence did not stop here. On July 26, 2017, Tay-K and his associates were involved in another shooting in San Antonio. This was as he was on the run. This time, the target was 33-year-old photographer Mark Saldivar, who was shot in a cold blood during robbery. Saldivar's death would further entrench Tay-K's criminal reputation. Authorities linked Tay-K to the shooting through witness testimony and forensic evidence, solidifying his connection to the violent crime spree he had been running from. In July 2017, once the certification hearings with Judge Southend were complete, both prosecutor William Vaser and the defense attorneys agreed to move forward with the case. Both were moved from the detention center to the Tarrant County Jail with their 5 co-defendants. Before Judge Ben McFarling, they pleaded not guilty to all charges. In May 2018, Prosecutor Vaser announced that the death penalty would not be sought against any of the defendants due to insufficient evidence. Tay-K, Aaron, and Lafarian refused to take plea deals. They chose to go to trial. In February 2018, Megan reached a deal, and before Judge McFarling pleaded guilty to the robbery charge, she agreed to testify against her co-defendants at trial. In August 2018, another deal struck. For Ariana, her murder charge was dismissed as she pleaded guilty to robbery. Judge McFarland immediately sentenced her to 25 years in prison. Also that month, Sean took a deal, pleading guilty to murder. With this, the robbery charge was dismissed and he was immediately sentenced to a reduced term of 40 years in prison. Then in November 2018, another deal was made. Jalen pleaded guilty to robbery. His murder charge was dismissed, and Judge McFarland immediately sentenced him to a reduced term of 30 years in prison. Aaron Robinson was put on trial in February 2018. The jury of 12 members and 4 alternates found her guilty on all charges. The following month, Judge McFarling announced that he would be handing down one sentence for all charges. On March 18, 2018, the judge refused to toss her conviction. Then a month after that, this judge refused to redo the trial. In May 2018, Latharia Merritt was put on trial. The jury of 12 members and 4 alternates found him guilty of murder, but not guilty of robbery. Judge McFarland, due to the nature of the crime, imposed a sentence immediately: life in prison without parole. During the trial, this judge refused to acquit nor declare a mistrial. Tay-K was put on trial in July 2019. It was conducted by Judge Sullivan, who had recently changed courts after his midterms election win. In the first day of trial, Tay-K pleaded guilty to 2 counts of robbery due to overwhelming evidence against him, but still chose to go to trial for the rest he was facing. The 12-person jury found him guilty of murder and the remaining robbery charge. At this point, Judge Sullivan had refused to grant a mistrial nor acquit him without the jury of 12 members and 4 alternates deciding. Days later, this judge sentenced him to 55 years in prison for murder. That was a consecutive 30 years for murder and concurrent 26 years for robbery, including the charges he pleaded guilty to combined together. Therefore, he got a total of 85 years in prison, but would only serve about 55. Aaron Robinson was sentenced to 20 years in prison in June 2018. Judge McFarland handed down that sentence for the murder charge and the robbery offense was merged into it. With the plea deal, Megan Holt's murder charge was dismissed. Judge McFarland on September 2019 sentenced her to 20 years in prison. That is enough for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 coming right up. After sentencing, Aaron Robinson was booked into the Christina Melton Crane unit in Gatesville, Texas. This was for evaluation. This suspect was afterwards admitted into the Lane Murray unit, also in Gatesville, to serve the time officially. Megan Holt was first booked into the Christina Melton Crane unit in Gatesville, also for evaluation, and was afterwards taken to the Hobby State Prison in Marlin, Texas. There, she remains, serving her sentence. LaFaria Merritt was first booked into the James Bard unit in Huntsville for evaluation, and afterwards was admitted into the Estelle State Prison, also in Huntsville, where he is currently, I did that again, where he is currently doing his time. Ariana Barat was booked into the Christina Melton Crane unit in Gatesville. That is where she has been kept since. She is still serving her sentence. Sean Robinson was first booked into the James Byard in Huntsville for evaluation. He was afterwards admitted into the Wynn State Prison, also in Huntsville. Jalen Bell was first booked into the James Byard unit in Huntsville. That was for evaluation, and he was afterwards admitted into the Hughes State Prison in Gatesville. Now let's discuss appeals. Megan Holt, Ariana Barat, and Sean Robinson waived their right to appeal with the plea deals they took. Aaron Robinson appealed to the higher courts, got a new attorney for the next phase. Frank Adler, the Tarrant County DA, Tiffany Burks, prosecuted the appeal. However, she was removed after losing the midterm election. Therefore, a new DA would prosecute Phil Sorrells. In August 2019, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals granted Aaron a new trial. She afterwards appeared before Judge Wayne Salvin, who had been elected district judge after winning those midterms, as I recently covered and had switched courts. Judge Salvin denied her bond and ordered that she be detained once again at the Tarrant County Jail for the time being. Then in November 2019, the appeals court cleared her, and she was released from custody. LaFaria Merritt appealed and got attorney Tim Moore to represent him for the next phase. The Tarrant County DA, Tiffany Burks, also initially prosecuted this appeal until she lost the election. In June 2019, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed the conviction and denied him a new trial. Attorney Moore sent the case over to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the following September, they refused to hear it. Then in December 2019, his last hope, the Innocence Project, refused to help him out. As of May 2025, Texas Governor Greg Abbott had made no plans to pardon nor commute any defendant in this case. No other governor before has commuted nor pardoned either. Jalen Bell appealed his case and requested to withdraw his plea, but Judge McFarland would not allow that. Therefore, an appeal was made to the higher courts. Greg Westphal represented him in this next phase. Tarrant County DA Phil Sorrells prosecuted the appeal. In January 2020, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals allowed him to withdraw the guilty plea. He did so, and then 3 months later, the appeals court cleared him in the case, and he was released from prison. Tay-K appealed his case also. He requested a new trial and to withdraw his guilty pleas. In August 2020, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals refused to let him withdraw his guilty pleas and also denied him a new trial. Then the following November, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear his case. 3 months later, the Innocence Project refused to take it on. However, in June 2021, The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals granted him resentencing. In August 2021, Judge Sullivan imposed the same sentence and made no changes to it. In December 2021, the U.S. Court of Appeals in New Orleans, Louisiana, received his case but refused to hear it. No appellate institution chose to take it up either, so he was stuck with his sentence. No governor has made plans to grant clemency nor pardon him. On August 2nd, 2018, Tay-K was searched while in jail, and a mobile phone was found in one of his socks. He was cited on a charge of possessing a prohibited item, a felony in the third degree. Therefore, he was moved from the Tarrant County Jail to the Lou Evans Correctional Center, which is a maximum security state prison. There, he was put into solitary confinement. While at the Tarrant County Jail, he shouted profanities and made death threats toward a sheriff sergeant. He threw his food tray, wet toilet paper, and went over his allowed phone time. He had also tried to flush the phone down the toilet. Prosecutor William Vaser voluntarily dismissed this charge and never took the case to court, as it was less severe than the other murder case. Solitary confinement was enough. On May 2018, Tay-K's management team claimed that his music was removed from playlists sponsored or curated by Spotify, alongside XXXTentacion and R. Kelly, as part of the platform's hate content and hateful conduct policy. That was what got the songs removed. A spokesperson for Spotify said, "When we look at promotion, we look at issues around hateful conduct, where you have an artist or another creator who has done something off platform that is particularly out of line with our values, egregious in a way that it becomes something that we don't want to associate ourselves with." These decisions were met with criticism, citing the streaming platform's lack of confidence and cancellation of other controversial artists' content. On May 31st, the CEO of Spotify, Daniel Ek, admitted that the policy had been handled wrongfully. On June 1st, Spotify received a threatening letter from Kendrick Lamar, who was once an artist of Top Dog Entertainment, as well as its founder, Anthony Tiffith, known as Top Dog, wanting to remove the label and its artist's back catalog from Spotify if the service did not reconsider its policy. Ultimately, Spotify reversed the decision to pursue the anti-hate conduct policy. XXXTentacion's music was recovered through Spotify's playlists and recommendations, but not Tay-K nor R. Kelly. On March 1st, 2019, several online outlets reported that Tay-K was on the verge of forming a prison gang to affiliate with the Crips, called the Rugrats, named after the Nickelodeon animated series of the same name, to fuel a rivalry with the Texas-based Puro Tango Blasts. A warden received a tip from an informant. As a result, Tay-K was placed into solitary confinement for this. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram was informed that a list of rules for the gang was called the Laws of Power. This was being set up. They were not informed about the knowledge that staff knew. No police officer nor correctional officer knew that these rules were starting. If caught in illegal activities, never to steal from a fellow Rugrat or disobey a higher rank, and no hurting or slaughter of kids unless necessary. Members were to be jumped in or voted in by a sergeant who could not leave unless jumped out, or two sergeants gave the member their blessing. All of above. Love, respect, protect, and cherish your fellow Rugrat always. Tay-K has been involved in 3 lawsuits as a result of his alleged participation in the murders of Mark Saldivar, Ethan Walker, the attempted murder of Zachary Bellodia, and the robbery assault of Skip Pepe. In June 2019, Saldivar's family, the victim of the San Antonio home invasion shooting, filed a wrongful death lawsuit seeking more than $1 million in damages. Lucia Saldivar, Mark's mom, was represented by attorney Mark Bindock. Tay-K by attorney John Hunter. This attorney would go on to represent him for further legal matters. Bexar County District Judge Christine Hortick found probable cause for the lawsuit to continue. In July 2018, Walker's family and survivor Zachary Bellotti jointly sued Tay-K and his former record labels, 88 Classics, as well as RCA Records, for the profits of his music following Walker's death and Bellotti's injuries. Ethan's parents, Richard and Roberta Walker, along with the injured victim, Zachary Bellotti, were represented by Brian Butcher of the Note Boom Law Firm. 88 Classic, Tay-K's record label, was represented by attorney Jeff Kearney, and Joshua White, the CEO of 88 Classic, was represented by Regan Wynn. Ezra Averill, Tay-K's manager, was represented by Rhett Parham, and Tay-K's 5 accomplices in the home raid were represented by the same attorneys as in their criminal cases. Magistrate Simon Gonzalez of the Tarrant County District Court presided over the initial hearing of this lawsuit. Gonzalez found probable cause for it to continue. As of May 2025, this case remains pending, as well as the Ethan Walker lawsuit. On May 2nd, 2019, Skip Pepe and his wife filed a lawsuit against Tay-K, his former manager, Ezra Averill, and the labels 88 Classics as well as RCA Records. These defendants chose to financially profit from Tay-K's violent crimes and take money for themselves from the sale of his music that otherwise would be available to compensate Tay-K's victims. This was stated by Pepe's attorney in the lawsuit. This lawsuit remains pending as well. Skip and his wife are represented by attorney Mark Bindock. Bexar County District Judge Christine Hortick found probable cause for the lawsuit to continue and decided that it's fine for all defendants to share the same attorney here from their crime case. In June 2017, it was brought to light that after breaking his ankle monitor to escape house arrest, Tay-K had fled to San Antonio, Texas, and the photographer that he killed became a victim unexpectedly. It was a random cold-blooded robbery. The staff at a Chick-fil-A nearby called the cops. However, Tay-K still managed to flee and get away, and he was tied to that murder officially when recaptured. While in custody, Mark had died at the scene, and the Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed he was murdered by gunshot. He had died instantly, and the body was confirmed through an ID. Visitation for Mark was held in the Cinco de Mayo of 2017, May 5th. At the M.E. Rodriguez Funeral Home in San Antonio. The following day, a rosary session was done in celebration of life. Both also held at that venue. He was cremated. Tay-K was already locked up for his unrelated 2016 murder case. He was charged for his next murder in October 2017 in Bexar County, right after he was sentenced for the unrelated home invasion in Tarrant County. He was transferred to the Bexar County Jail. Before being booked, his first stop was the Bexar County Sheriff's headquarters. Then an accomplice named Joanna Reyes was pulled over by the San Antonio Police Department, who arrested her after the shooting in Odessa, Texas, as they had located her. She was identified as Tay-K's getaway driver in the San Antonio shooting. Her parents shortly after arrived at the scene to pick up the car. Joanna was taken to the San Antonio police station, where she confessed to being involved in the shooting. In addition to that, she had apparently been wanted for cannabis possession since 2016. Tay-K at the Bexar County Sheriff's headquarters appeared before Commissioner Rebecca Clay, who remanded him into custody. The same attorney from his other murder case would represent him here as well. Prosecutor Jason Garahan would take on the case. In this case, Tay-K faced just one capital murder charge. He immediately pleaded not guilty. Joanna Reyes at the Bexar County Sheriff's headquarters also appeared before Commissioner Clay and was granted a pretrial release. Therefore, she was let go to pen trial. She was charged with capital murder and third-degree felony evidence tampering. Prosecutor Garahan took on her case as well. In an unrelated case, she was charged with felony cannabis possession. Public defender Stephen Gilmore was assigned to represent her in these cases. Joanna Reyes pleaded not guilty before Judge Stephanie Boyd. Judge Boyd allowed her to continue to be free pending trial for the two cases she had pleaded not guilty to. Joanna, in December 2018, was charged with an extra misdemeanor of assault. This was regarding the San Antonio shooting. In June 2019, Prosecutor Garahan and Attorney Gilmore agreed to a plea deal. Therefore, she pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of third-degree felony evidence tampering in order to throw out the capital murder. She agreed to testify against Tay-K in this trial in exchange for a shorter term. Judge Boyd then announced that Joanna would serve up to 10 years of probation and confirmed that she had to testify against Tay-K. Tay-K, on the other hand, had refused to take a plea deal and chose to go to trial instead. On April Fool's Day of 2025, Tay-K was put on trial. The jury of 12 members and one alternate found him guilty on the 15th day of the month. He was convicted on a lesser charge of first-degree murder. The following day, Bexar County District Judge Stephanie Boyd sentenced him to 80 years in prison. Tay-K is in the process of appealing this case, and this obviously remains pending. The judge had refused to toss the charges without the jury deciding the verdict, and by now this judge has also refused to redo the trial. On the other hand, with the plea deal she took, Joanna waived her right to appeal. Tay-K is currently at the Colony State Prison in Kennedy, Texas. The Texas Department of Corrections may transfer him later on, but that is uncertain. On Star Wars Day in 2025, Judge Boyd acknowledged that Joanna testified against Tay-K. This was May 4. She had helped the prosecution convict him. Therefore, the judge sentenced her to 10 years of deferred probation for the lesser charge she pleaded guilty to. This meant that due to her having been out of bond with restrictions for 8 years, she was credited for that and would only have to complete 2 more years of the probation. With the deal, the other charges, including the cannabis offense, were immediately dismissed. She is currently doing the probation. Tay-K's rise to fame was swift, but his fall from grace was even faster. His story is one of tragedy, violence, and missed opportunities. A cautionary tale of how a young man's talent could not escape the gravity of his criminal actions. Tay-K serves his time in a state prison. One has to wonder what could have been if he had made different choices. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and crimes of Tay-K. We hope this story serves as a reminder of the impact of our decisions, both on and off the stage. Until next time, stay vigilant and remember, actions have consequences. The script is designed to cover all aspects of Tay-K's criminal history in a detailed and engaging format. It combines the main events with legal proceedings and provides a comprehensive view of his actions. Let me know what you think about the Daytona Boyz. Thank you for listening. Take care and have a good rest of your day. May those affected rest in peace.